What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Locked On Pirates podcast. I am, of course, your host, who does the most, Ethan Smith. Hope you all are having a phenomenal Friday as the Pittsburgh Pirates head to Citizens Bank Park to take on the Philadelphia Phillies today. We will be previewing that series, taking a look at matchups, taking a look at everything you need to see for the final battle of PA here in 2022. We're also going to talk about why 5 runs or more has been the key to victory for the Pirates this season, in a season that hasn't seen too many victories, but why it may be a possibility here if the offense can catch some fire. And also, we're going to take a look at the NL playoff picture heading into the final month of the season and see which teams will be playing for the potential to play in the Fall Classic with the NL pennant in hand. My name is Ethan Smith of the Locked On Pirates podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at MVP_Ethan or at Locked On Pirates. You can also follow this podcast on Twitter, Spotify, Odyssey, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by Bet Online. It is where the game starts, but more on them later. And with that said, let's get into today's episode.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to that Pirates podcast, everybody. Good morning. Happy Friday. Hope you guys are all having a wonderful start to your day. Hopefully you're all looking forward to the weekend. A weekend that is jam-packed with Pirates baseball, as it always is and has been since the month of April. Again, my name is Ethan Smith of the Locked On Pirates podcast, avid Pittsburgh sports fan, diehard Pirates fan, and ready for this team to finally come out of this rebuild, which has just been very painful. Of course, the Pirates were off yesterday. I was off yesterday. I am here on your airwaves again today, and the Pittsburgh Pirates will be playing a foe from across the state in the Philadelphia Phillies this weekend. And the last time these teams played, albeit there was a national TV game involved, it wasn't much of a contest between these two teams, as the Phillies had a 4-game sweep of the Pittsburgh Pirates in their last matchup that was in July, where the Phillies won 4-2, 2-1, 8-2, and I believe the other one was 8-7. So a tightly contested series, but the Pirates offense in those last 3 games definitely teetered on the brink of mediocrity like it has for most of this year. But that first game is the one that I really want to look at, 8-7, where they had 7 hits, 7 runs. Of course, 5 of those runs came in the 9th inning where the game was practically over. But the fact that they even made it that kind of a game was major to me. And for the Pirates to win this game, it's going to take, or win this series, it would take a lot. I mean, we just saw them play a superior team in the Atlanta Braves and get absolutely curb stomped at PNC Park. So for most people, it would probably not behoove them to expect a sweep here in Philadelphia against another team that's right in the playoff race, probably going to end their drought of playoff mishaps and not being there. But as we take a look up and down the series for the first 3, or for these 3 games, we get Falter and Wilson on the mound tonight. Probably the worst of the pitching matchups. Wilson's ERA up to a 5.74, Falter at a 4.40. This, I think, tonight is the one game I have confidence in the Pirates to potentially win, but I'm not going to say they are going to win because I'm not entirely sure. But this would be the one where I'd say, okay, the Pirates have a reasonable chance to pull a game out. Now, albeit according to ESPN analytics, the Philadelphia Phillies still have an 82.6% chance to win this game. So my confidence can, I guess, go screw itself. But again, I think it's going to come down to the bats in this series. I think the pitching for the Pirates is going to hold up in this series. The Braves, of course, the Phillies sport a very strong offense as well. You're talking about the likes of Kyle Schwarber, Nicholas Castellanos, Alec Boehm, Rhys Hoskins, and Bryce Harper has returned to the Phillies lineup. He returned yesterday against the Cincinnati Reds. So the Phillies already have a thing or two and know a thing or two about beating up on a lowly NL Central team this week. So we'll see if the Pirates meet the same fate. On Saturday night, it's going to be Tyler Beede and Kyle Gibson. I'm sorry. These bullpen games are just, you already know it's coming, especially against an offense like Philadelphia. You already know Saturday's probably going to be miserable. Tyler Beede, for what it's worth, has not done bad. 4.13 ERA with a 1.5 whip over 52 innings. Not terrible. Excuse me. But these bullpen games have to stop. They really do. And I don't know when they stop because the Pirates don't really have the options at starting pitching right now for them to stop. Of course, you saw the Mitch Keller thing and all of this other stuff going on with the starting rotation that I've gotten into a lot of times. But Kyle Gibson has been off and on this year for the Philadelphia Phillies, but I think off and on is still good enough to shut down this Pirates lineup. So I would assume the Phillies win on Saturday night due to the Pirates doing that. And then things get interesting on Sunday. We get the best pitching matchup of the weekend in the Sunday matinee game at 1:35. Roansy Contreras and Noah Syndergaard are going to face each other on Sunday. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, I'm excited for this one. Roansy and Syndergaard sport very similar ERAs. Of course, Syndergaard in way more innings pitched, as we saw Roansy deal with being sent down for a while. But very interestingly enough, Roansy has 63 innings pitched to Syndergaard's 105, but only has 19 less strikeouts. I find that very interesting. He does have more walks and about the same home runs allowed, which does not bode in his favor. But Roansy, who we just saw pitch a 7-inning gem against the Atlanta Braves that resulted in a loss, I really want to see him do it again against a strong Phillies lineup, and I think he can. Does the offense hold up against Noah Syndergaard, though? That's a tall task. That's a tall task against this Phillies team. And that's one of the biggest reasons why this Phillies team is where they are. This is why they're in a contention spot again, is because the pitching has been elite. Of course, the Pirates are missing the likes of Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola in this series, thank God, because if they were facing Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler in this series, I would not expect them to do well at all. I really don't expect them to do well, period, but I do think that they could squeak a game out here from Philadelphia. I really do. I think their best chance still to do it is on Friday. I know Contreras is pitching on Sunday and will probably pitch a good game. I just don't know if the Pirates' offense against Noah Syndergaard can give him enough backing to really say, okay, Roansy can get a win here. I would bet for the sweep if it was my betting money. But my heart is saying the Pirates are going to pull a game out here, and knowing me, for some reason, it'll be the bullpen game because I just said that's their guaranteed loss this weekend. But you look at this Phillies lineup that, again, I've said is very strong, but Kyle Schwarber's a home run machine who's batting 213. Alec Boehm's 292. It's a lineup for the Phillies that I think is strong. It's a strong lineup up and down. But with the right pitching and the right game plan pitching, you can shut it down. This is not the Braves. I'm going to be honest with you right now. The Phillies are not the Atlanta Braves. They are 70-55. Great record. They will probably make the playoffs, which I'll get into here in a minute. The Braves are a different animal. I will be honest with you. The Braves and the Mets are both a different animal, and those two teams, I think, are going to go head to head the entire month of September. Um, as far as individual stuff, I do think Brian Reynolds is going to have a big weekend. He seems to have very fun weekend series. I think he's going to have a fun weekend. I also think Kevin Newman's going to continue to keep his bat hot. I think he's going to keep just getting those little base hits that he likes to have. I think he's going to continue to make that work. Um, as far as the offense as a whole goes, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, you saw in this Brave series, They only scored 4 runs over 3 games. It wasn't pretty. But maybe they light a fire under their ass and face the Phillies off well. Now, again, history would tell us this 2022 season that won't happen. History would tell us that the Phillies already beat the Pirates in 4 straight games in PNC Park this year. So everything is against Pittsburgh in this series. But they've done surprising things before this year. I mean, you saw them sweep the Dodgers in LA. You saw them beat the Yankees in a series. But as far as optimism goes for what this offense can do, I think that's going to be the stopping power that stops them from possibly winning a game in this series. The pitching, I think, will hold up. I think the Phillies do pose a strong lineup, but I don't think it's going to be as strong as people think it is. I know Bryce Harper coming back definitely helps, and I fully expect Bryce Harper to have a big series against the Pirates. I think this will kind of be that series for him that gets him warmed up again and gets him going again. But for the Pirates to win this series again, they need to score 5 runs or more in some of these in these games, maybe all of these games. Who knows? Why do I tell you that? And why have I brought it up all year? Well, they are 32 and 10. 32 and 10 when they score 5 runs or more. Now that tells you a couple things. One, they've only scored 5 runs or more 42 times this year. They have 47 wins, and we're in August. They have not scored more than 5 runs than they have in games that they've won. That is sickening to me because it tells me that, simply put, you have to score 5 runs or more. Now, that's not easy. I'm not going to sit here and act like it's easy. It's not. Especially not with an offense like this. It is not easy. But why not use that as a benchmark when you're going into every game? Why not use that as motivation when you're going into every single game? Why not tell Brian Reynolds and Key Brian Hayes and O'Neal Cruz to swing the bats early and often to try to get to that mark? It's apparent the baseball gods like when you get to that mark because you have a freaking crazy win percentage when you get to that mark. You're winning 3 out of every 4 games when you score 5 runs or more. And you know what's even more crazy? Let's go up the month of August, the entire month of August. We'll do this real quick. We're actually do this right after we tell you about Bet Online. If you want to bet on this series this weekend, make sure you check out the wonderful people over at Bet Online. They have all of your betting needs covered. The Phillies are favored in every single game this weekend, as they should be. But betonline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews of news and every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, UFC, and boxing, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports wagering information. From live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts, they have you covered. Head to BetOnline today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today, and BetOnline is where the game starts. So back to 5 runs or more. You look at the month of August for the Pittsburgh Pirates, which has not been a great one. First game of the month, 5-3 over the Brewers. They win. 8-7 over the Brewers. They win. 5-4 for the Brewers. They win. So in the month of August, when they scored 5 runs up to that point, they were 3-0 and swept the NL Central leading Brewers like it was almost nothing. They then head to Baltimore, where they had no games scored over 5 runs, and they lost all 3 of they had 1 game, where they won 8-1. So they were 4-2 in the month of August after scoring 4 or 5 or more runs in 4 of those games. So they were 4-0 in games this month where they scored 5 or more runs. They had none against the Arizona Diamondbacks. They had one against the Giants where they lost 8-7 on Sunday, August 14th. So that means they were 4-1 in these such games. Against the Red Sox, they had one of those games where they were 8-2 last Thursday against the Boston Red Sox, which makes them 5-1 when they score 5 runs or more. They then beat the Reds the very next day, 5-4, which makes them 6-1 whenever they scored 5 runs or more this month. And then they lose 9-5 on Sunday, which made them 6-2. And then they didn't have any such game against the Braves. So in 8 games where they scored 5 or more runs, they won 6 of those games, lost one of them 9-5, where the pitching just blew up, and lost another one on a walk-off, where they were really playing a very good game. So what that tells me is we're now up to August. What is today? I don't even remember what today is. August 26th. Yeah, there we go. What that tells me is it's not unattainable. It's not to score 5 runs. I mean, 8 games in the month to score 5 runs, again, is not it's not the majority. It's not. But it shows that it can be done. And when it is done, you're winning games. And you're arguably winning these games because you deserve to win these games. Because you're hitting the baseball. You're scoring runs. You have the occasional home run for Brian Reynolds or O'Neill Cruz or whoever. That's the key to the Pirates winning games this season, is they just got to get to 5 runs. Mathematically and practically, it is making sense, right? It makes sense that I say get to 5 runs because your chances of winning go up. I just compared it in the month of August where they're 6-2 in such games and they're 32-10 overall. Which means before they got into this month, they were 24-8 in such games. That means they were winning 3 out of every 4 games they played where they scored 5 or more runs. It's just simple stats and math. But again, I don't get why the coaching staff would not just pump this into their brain every single freaking day. I would pump this into their brain every single day. Get the 5 runs. You get the 5 runs, that gives us a good chance to win. I'm emphatic about this. I've talked about it all year. Literally all year. And it's something that I think, again, is hard for this team because it's not savvy in the offensive department. But it has pieces to it that can put up 5 runs a game. And that's where I'm not going to mention he who now shall not be named anymore on this podcast, or this week at least, because I know what you guys feel about him. But 5 runs is not something to me that is this giant boulder to climb for a team that has Brian Reynolds, O'Neill Cruz, Key Brian Hayes, and Kevin Newman, and other parts of the lineup that are helping, like Michael Chavis. But with that said, let's go look at the NL playoff picture. I'm not going to look at the AL. Don't really care to look at the AL right now. The Mets and the Braves, of course, in the National League East has been the story of the entire second half. The Braves have closed the gap on the Mets. The Mets are 80-46. The Braves are 78-48, 2 games back. I do believe those two play each other one more time. I know we have the entire month of September, and yes, it actually does set up quite well. They play each other right before the season ends in Atlanta, so that could really determine who wins that division in the NL East. Of course, the Phillies right in the thick of the wild card. So we'll see. Excuse me. So we'll see if Philly can finally end its playoff drought. Meanwhile, in the hometown turf of the NL Central, the Cardinals have, as I expected with the Brewers trade deadline, cemented themselves as the likely NL Central champs at 72-53. Milwaukee currently is 65-58, 6 games back, not completely out of the chances of making a run at that thing, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think the St. Louis Cardinals are going to coast to an NL Central crown this season, which they did not get last year after being knocked out in the wild card game by the Los Angeles Dodgers. And speaking of the Dodgers, who now pose easily the best record in baseball at 86-37, they're going to win that division. That's a foregone conclusion. They have a 20-game cushion on the San Diego Padres, who have been disappointing since the Juan Soto trade, to say the least. But where things get interesting with the National League is the wild card, and there's a reason for that. I mean, the Braves or the Mets, depending on whoever wins that division, is going to be wild card number one. I think that's pretty clear. The Phillies are about 7.5 back of the Atlanta Braves right now for that top wild card spot, but I think whoever wins the NL East will obviously win the NL East. Whoever loses the NL East will be the top wild card team. So that's how I feel about that. But then once you get down to the nitty gritty here, the Phillies, who are the Pirates' opponent this weekend, if you didn't know, after listening to this podcast for 20 minutes, 70-55, have a 2.5 game cushion on the San Diego Padres, who are 68-58. And then Milwaukee and San Francisco are the two teams that have a outside shot of getting into the playoffs. Now, Milwaukee is a game and a half out. I kind of knew they were going to take the step back after trading Josh Hader for the trade they did with San Diego. And it's unfortunate for Milwaukee because they are in that stage of their team where they are winning. But I don't know if it's going to be this year. I think the talent of San Diego will probably hold on to that final wild card spot. But don't knock out the Giants either if San Diego keeps going down this track that they're going. San Francisco, of course, 61-62, but only 5.5 back. A lot can happen in the month of September. A lot of these teams play each other, and I think it's going to be a very fun time to watch as a fan of the Pittsburgh Pirates because you have no dog in the race except probably wanting to see San Francisco get knocked out somehow and somebody dethroning the Dodgers again. As a fan of this Pittsburgh Pirates team and a host of this podcast, my allegiances lie with the Mets. I like seeing Daniel Vogelbach and what he's been doing in New York. I think New York has a strong, strong team. I think that pitching staff is going to be very hard to deal with in any series, be it 3, 5, or 7 games. And I'm really rooting for the Mets, and I think that they have a chance to make the World Series. But I'm very interested to see if Philadelphia is going to end its playoff drought. It's very highly likely. I mean, they have a little bit of a cushion on San Diego, but for the Phillies, their most important task is going to be to win this series here to keep pace because, I mean, Philadelphia, looking forward, they play the Pirates and the Diamondbacks. These are games they need to just win. Then they play the Giants, a team that will try to close the gap on them, the Marlins and the Nationals and the Marlins again. So they need to win those games because the ending of their season is not exactly easy. They play Atlanta, Toronto, Atlanta again, the Cubs, the Nationals, and then they close the series out or their season out against the Astros in a rare interleague closing out of a series, which I thought was very interesting. But with that said, guys, the NL wild card is going to be fun to look at. The series will also be fun to look at in the Battle of Pennsylvania. My name is Ethan Smith. Make sure you check out this podcast on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. We will be back on Monday with Gary Morgan to recap this series as well as anything going on in the world of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful Friday and a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the baseball, and I will see you on the flip side.